Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to your Essentials group on the Gospel of John. This week we enter into one of the longest dialogues that Jesus ever gives in the Bible. Even more than that, we step into some of the most studied theological material in all of the history of Christian thought. Now, if John is perhaps the most studied theological text of the Christian tradition, and it very well probably is, then chapters 13 through 17 are likely some of the most explosive and hotly debated. It's really important stuff.
You may remember in our introductory video how John divides Jesus' ministry into two parts. The first part of Jesus' ministry occurs in chapters 1 through 12. In this section, we learn about Jesus' miraculous works which reveal Jesus' character and his power. But then you have a second section, chapters 13 through 17. This section includes extensive dialogue from Jesus, revealing what Jesus teaches us about himself. So, in the first section of John's Gospel, Jesus performs miracles that teach us about his character and power. And then in this second section, from which we read today, Jesus instructs us with his words and his teaching.
Now, it's important to see the way this is not simply a literary feature of the document, but even more than that, it shows us something about how Jesus actually pursues his people. That is, most of us intuitively get that if we want to have people believe us, we have to earn their trust first. So this is why Christianity rightly emphasizes character along with proclamation and teaching, because who we are matters. And so it is here with Jesus. He wants to prove his power and goodness and authority before he tells us things that are almost too profound for average people to believe. So that's how we enter into this week's teachings, a teaching that hopefully flows out of a trust that Jesus has already built with us.
Now, our specific passage today, John chapter 14, verses 1 through 14, it focuses on three ideas. First idea is our access to God the Father. Second idea is our eventual place with God the Father. And then the third idea is how we receive the power of God the Father. The questions we provided will help you explore these ideas. But one thing to note as you delve into these profound ideas is to note how Jesus introduces this discussion, how he introduces these ideas. Before Jesus teaches us these three things, you have the story of Jesus rebuking Peter. This is immediately before our reading today. Peter declares his absolute devotion to Jesus, but Jesus then gives him a sobering rebuke, a rebuke about how Peter is going to, in fact, betray him. That's the last verse of chapter 13. But then you meet in the first verse of chapter 14, from our reading, Jesus saying, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." Don't let your hearts be troubled. It's as if Jesus wants to say, I know that there is so much ahead of you that will be hard, but trust me, everything I'm about to tell you is really good news.
That's really important point to note at this point, because that should frame your entire discussion as you move through these three major ideas: how we have access to God, our eventual place with God, and how we receive God's power. Again, these are all very dense theological topics in a way, topics worthy of rigorous thought and study. But as you discuss, remember the way that this whole thing is framed. As a response to Peter, it suggests to us that these topics should actually propel us forward. You can most assuredly get bogged down in some of what this teaching means, and I actually hope that you do to a degree. But at the end of all of it, make sure you see the profound goodness in these truths. They should give you hope and confidence and move you forward, not bog you down in theological minutia.
That's right. And Jesus is preparing his disciples for all of what's ahead. And he's preparing you as well. So, for example, when you enter into the discussion about receiving God's power, which we see in verses 13 and 14, we hope that you will not only engage with what the verses might mean at an intellectual level, but also engage them at a heart level. Don't just try to discuss what it means. Try to accept the promise that's given. Whether it's in your group time or by yourself after your discussion, ask Jesus for greater love or ask Jesus for a more sincere dependence on Him. Ask whatever might be on your heart and see what happens. Again, this text shows us that Jesus wants us to have peace and confidence in His favor. That's the peace He was trying to give His disciples as they were about to enter the great trial of His arrest, crucifixion, and death.
These verses are some of the most profound in all of Scripture. I hope that you enjoy them and that your discussion is rich, but even more, we hope that you come to have a deeper confidence in what it means to have access to God the Father, to have your destiny be bound for His home, and to have the gift of His power given to you in this world. We hope that your discussion is wonderful, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.